Mikla Peterson. Dr. Jordan Peterson. How are you doing? Functioning about 20%. Advice for someone in his 20s. Make a plan. Something you're interested. Discipline. Allow yourself for the possibility that you have something important to contribute to the world. And the world would be lesser place without that contribution. Don't be afraid of responsibility, it's where you find what sustains you in your life. Be conscious on too much responsibility. What people call traps, are actually the means to their life. Like a romantic relationship, they feel it's going to interfere with their pursuit. But that's not the case. You're not going to find something more valuable than a committed relationship with someone that you love. That sustains itself across time, and maybe produces children. That's life. There may be people that avoiding that it's the better route, but they are few, and you need a real reason to assume that you're one of those people. If you are lucky, you are not one of those. Like, I had a very good career, very meaningful. But, the most important part of my life. It's my wife and my family. Be afraid of that, but don't let that stop you from pursuing it. It's the perfect time to do that? Life isn't very long. You can't evaluate many relationships. You have like 5 to 10 years to do that. Because it gets harder as you get older. Because people your age are increasingly in relationships. Don't overestimate the degree to which you have to find someone vs creates the relationship. Like, in other cultures, arranged marriages and frequently work. Vs marriages of romantic attraction. Both have his own pitfalls. No matter who you find, they're full of flaws like you are. So, a lot of it is something that you create. So, find someone you can trust, someone that you're attracted to, share the same ambitions, or at least compatible with yours. After that, is what you create, rather than what you find. So that's why arranged marriage works. Because there's a societal pressure to not get divorced. Of course. In the West as well. Those marriage works, because of social pressure. It's very difficult to sustain a relationship across time. And you need a lot of social institutions, as well as conceptual schemes operating to help assure that that's the case. Life it's so difficult that you will have difficult time with your partner. But there's no escaping that. If the pressure to stay together wasn't there, the relationship might fragment prematurely. Then, not only would you have problems, you'd also not have any relationships. Long-term monogamous relationships are the best that you can manage, cross-culturally. Polygamous societies tend to be more violent. Especially young men, because they are more shut out of the mating games and that makes them very frustrated. Oh yes, they might think why this guy has 7 wives, he'd be better off dead. Part of what monogamy does, is stabilize societies. In stable societies fewer people die. So, our species has decided that that's a good trade-off. Life's too hard. I might have needed some time to be by myself, it's possible. That, I made a terrible mistake. But even when you were on yourself, you had friends and family. Yeah, but life is easier if you can find somebody compatible. And sharing your experiences with someone. They're more real then. The present and the future all more real if you have someone who shares them with you. That's more advice for just young people in general. The best advice you can give to young people is that unless you have very good reason not to, you should do what all people have always done. Like in my clinical practice, I evaluate their lives across a number of dimensions. If they were immersed in the network of friendships, family, wife, children, if they were of an age where that was appropriate, career, job, productive and match well with their abilities, educated, to the extent that their intelligence and curiosity might demand, reasonable physical and mental health. All those things need to be established. If you don't do what everyone else does, then, the probability that you're abdicating your responsibility and that you will miss out on something important, is extremely high. Like, the new Disney movies. Concentrates on the special child, and is being crushed by society into being unpleasantly normal. There's a bit of crushing that goes along with being socialized. Is to become like everyone else. But don't underestimate the benefit of that. It's very difficult to tread your own path. You blow apart the social routines. You'll find chaos out there, that will overwhelm you. That's not pleasant, you don't want that. You talked in previous occasions that you need to socialize your children before 4 or they are screwed. There's a minority of children who are aggressive by temperament at the age of 2. If they are not socialized to the average level of aggression by the age of 4, it can't be rectified later. You want your children to be acceptable to their peers by the time they're 3 or 4. Because peers do most of the socialization. Like now that we are locked down. So, what can parents do, if they're missing out those developmental 2 to 4 years? They can play with their children. You play with them, they need to play. And remember, Children are very resilient. So, they're not going to be permanently damaged by the situation. Especially if their parents keep them on the proper track. Yes, and everyone will be a little stunted after this. Hopefully equally stunted. People say 20s is for learning, university, job, experiences. And you can focus on relationships later. Well, men have more freedom to do that than women do. Because the biological clock ticks more urgently for women. And men become more attractive through their 20s. Because they become more competent. And women tend to find men who are about 4 years older than them optimally attractive. All other things held equal. Men tend to prefer younger partners. Women tend to prefer older partners. Gap to be 3 to 4 years, cross-culturally. So, men can use that additional time to make themselves more attractive. Being more competent and more generous. And women are appreciative of that. Because women bear the primary responsibility for early child care. Pregnancy and at least the first year. Breastfeeding. And when the child is so dependent and more tied to the mother. So, women need to find a partner to help them redress that imbalance. Competence and generosity that allows the possibility of infant caretaking during that extraordinarily dependent time. The academic research that I found most credible with regard to male-female differences. It's through biology and evolutionary psychology, David Buss. You might disagree, if you believe that gender roles and sex rules are entirely socially constructed. Is the case that both are sociable to a large degree. But there's a big difference between a large degree and entirely. So, pay attention to biology and the scientific methods. There are more similarities between men and women across the dimensions of personality than there are differences. So, on average women and men are more the same than they are different. The curves, the distributions of the traits overlap to a large degree. The societies that become more egalitarian in their social policies between sexes, the differences increase rather than decrease. As a consequence of differences in interest that aren't immense. But still allows for retention of the truth that there is more similarity between men and women than difference. Because a lot of activity occurs at the extremes. So even minor differences can produce very great differences in social outcome. E.g., men are more aggressive, physically violent. So, you might say the average men would be more aggressive than something between 65 and 80% of women. But that translates into a massive difference in incarceration rates. Because the most aggressive individuals go to jail. And almost all the most aggressive individuals are men. And people don't like it. And it's somewhat contradictory. Because at one level of analysis, things can be the same. And at another level of analysis they can be markedly different. And you need to accept some presuppositions. E.g., occupational choice. It's a minority of people who become engineers. Now, engineers tend to be interested in things, rather than people. And men in average are more interested in things than women on average. And that's the largest sex difference. That's no, interest in people vs interest in things. But it's large enough that produces tremendous difference in the rates of women. Even mathematically gifted women who end up in engineering/physics. So, it seems somewhat independent of ability. Every 16 IQ points a woman goes up from 100, she's 40% less likely to get married. Every 16 IQ points a man goes up from 100, he's 35% more likely to get married. I don't think that pursuing a career and a family is more difficult for women than it's for men. Because the differential commitment during pregnancy and for the first years. So, it might be that more intelligent women have a harder time, because they have a broader range on interests and abilities. It's less obvious to them how to reconcile that with the traditional maternal role. But I don't know, it's speculation. Like, it's rare, to find some very successful people who have kids. So how they do it, like how the wife have businesses and have kids. I almost forgot. There's another reason. Women tend to prefer men at or above their position in social hierarchy. A hierarchy of competence. So, a high IQ woman is going to want a man whose IQ is as high as hers or higher. And men aren't like that, they'll marry across and down the competence hierarchy. So, as a woman becomes more competent, include intellectually competent, her pool of eligible mates from her perspective shrinks. So, if a woman has 145 IQ, she only might be interested in a man of 145 IQ or above. And that's only 1% of the population. And he might like the 110 IQ, 20 years old girl. Well, you might give men credit that they're willing to take care of someone. And that's indexed by their preference for women at or below them in the competence hierarchy. Or you could say that they don't like to be threatened in their domain of competence by their partner. Maybe they don't like feeling insecure and inferior. Yes, I think if you are a smarter woman you end up challenging them all the time. And also, women get rid of the aspect that you find attractive. And men probably likes being the dominant. Besides, men are also intimidated by women who are outstanding across multiple dimensions. Men are certainly intimidated by women who are very physically attractive. So, a woman very intelligent and very physically attractive, she's going to be very intimidating. And fewer men are going to approach her. Do you have any specific tip for someone at his 20s? I said make a plan, so. Selfauthoring.com. The Future Authoring Program helps people make a plan for their life across multiple dimensions. It's hard, it's like doing homework, but it's worth it. What are your thoughts on Biden president? But more importantly, a lot of conservatives, and a lot of pro-Trump, don't know what to do now. So, do you have recommendations for conservatives? You'll get your chance again. In democratic society, power flips back and forth. So, get your house in order. Rather than concentrating on what the Democrats have done wrong. And for people on the left, concentrate on what your crowd and you are doing wrong and try to stop doing that, and hope that works. I don't know a better alternative. I have one. If everything goes completely sideways, make a fund, take a lot of money, and buy an island, and move there. Everyone is stressed by the lockdown and the pandemic. I hope that across time cooler heads will prevail. We should each try to cool our heads. In 2017 to 2018, you talked of the importance of free speech. So, what do you think of the power that social media companies have right now? I think it's ambivalent. Don't think it's a good thing. That our society is organized, through private companies, that control and allow a tremendous amount of our interpersonal communication. They have the power of have been forced into the position where they're policing speech. So, I don't have a simple answer of how those can be solved. They're solved by people that are trying to be as reasonable as they possibly can. But there are people who are unreasonable on purpose, and also the unreasonable by accident. So, we don't know where the line should be drawn. Like, the free speech proponents can say. If you're a private company, you don't have the obligation to host the opinions that you do not agree. Maybe, don't take down any contributions that didn't violate American law. That's a reasonable restriction. I don't have more wisdom. It's frightening to see what's happening. We don't know the solution. So, is it ever acceptable to cancel somebody? These things have to be thought through in their specific instantiations. It depends on what you mean by cancel. At what point does misbehavior needs intervention? We don't know how to regulate these technologies. E.g., Twitter seems to promote irritable and impulsive responses because its strict character limit. So, your anger systems can produce short verbal outbursts. Twitter is an impulsive forum. We don't know enough of human psychology to predict these things. Much less police it. We don't know effect on personality of being forced to communicate in less than 280 characters. Maybe that brings disagreeable aspect to the forefront. In a way that a longer post just wouldn't. Maybe compassion takes 500 words and anger 180. No one knows. Anger is an impulsive immediate response, so it's likely adapted to shorter time frames. I think that the most freedom it's better. But social media it's tricky, because it's a private company. And I wouldn't want my company to have random rules put on it by the government. So, maybe when a social media has some number of users, shouldn't be treated as a private company. At some point, a public company becomes part of the utility infrastructure. And at that point emerge beyond the merely private domain. But I don't know when that exactly happens. E.g., people compare this to telephone companies. But they couldn't influence a million people with one utterance. Private companies provide services that are so ubiquitous that they become public necessities. And new rules need to govern. Government need to do them, because we don't have a better mechanism than that. We don't have a better decision-making alternative for large-scale public decisions than government. Maybe things will get better when everyone's get vaccinated. That will improve things a lot. I hope vaccines bring the pandemic under control. Thoughts on free will vs no having any free will? Determinism. It's not an either or a proposition. You're free in some regard and determined in others. The farther out you look in the future, the more your behavior is free will. So, the more present the more your behavior is determined. As you move toward an action, so become increasingly less determined. We treat each other as if we have free will. And the societies function if that's the case. We reward and punish ourselves as if we have free will. I think we have free will because we're too complex to be determined. Simple systems act in a determinate manner, but once they exceed a certain level of complexity, I don't think that's the case anymore. You can aim at one thing, like a career, and each action that you take, leads to a limited number of actions, just one realistically. And it's better that way. Because otherwise you wouldn't be able to act. You want to constrain your field of choices until you hit a determined point, because then you'll act. The obvious or inevitable choice. And a lot of your behavior is chained reflexes. That doesn't mean that you don't decide where to aim those chained reflexes. If everything you do is determined, people can make the excuse. Well, if it's out of my control and I have no self-will, then it's not my fault. Well, sometimes that argument is validly. Like, you can sustain forms of brain damage that clearly impair your ability to make moral choices. Like prefrontal damage, you become impulsive, make choices that are immoral even by your own judgment before you have the damage. So, you can be unfortunate and end up in very determined condition. It's reasonable to take that into account. Yes, you can only do a limited number of things if you're sick, or even how you can think. That is almost the definition of sickness. Apart from the pain and anxiety. What's the difference between your new and old book? I divided up a set of rules from Quora into two categories. 1. Rules that pertain to how the situation where you have too much uncertainty and chaos ruled. 2. Rules in the situation where you have too much constraint and order reigned. First book was about how to deal with an excess of uncertainty. And the second is oriented of how you deal with an excess of constraint. Conservatives are more temperamentally upset by uncertainty and chaos. And liberals are more temperamental upset by the excesses of the patriarchal structure. And each of those situations can get out of hand. Do you think that nowadays conservatives are still the people who are less open? I think your question is more of, where do the libertarians fit? Do they fit on the liberal side of the conservative side? And make the case that the libertarians have shifted towards the conservative side? I don't know if it's changed the personality predictors of liberalism and conservatism. And I don't know if the underlying political order has shifted. Liberals are higher in openness. But that was 10 to 15 years ago. But I suspect it's the same. I feel that the liberals are putting rules now. Maybe something shifts in political belief near the extremes. I believe there are left-wing totalitarians. But the rules that apply at the extremes might not be the same rules that apply in the middle. So, I think the right question should be what the middle does with the extremes. Like, how do the liberals control the radical left wing? And how the conservatives control the radical right wing? As an academic, I'm more concerned with the actions of the radical left wing. Because they've produced more threat to free academic inquiry. How that's playing out on the broader sphere isn't self-evident. I think it's self-evident. Andre told me that the other day you passed a playground that said "play inclusively" on it. Yes, I wasn't happy with the signage. Well, you're always welcome in the psychedelic commune.